Architect Palafox, thank you for being on the show. I remember last time we talked, I don't know if you remember this, you were one of the first ones that we interviewed on the service road, and we ran out of time.
Yes,
we had
sir.
people putting up boards going 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and I remember thinking, we haven't even scratched the surface here. We were talking about the history of Metro Manila, the projects that you've done overseas, so I'll just get right into it. What went wrong with Metro Manila? And how do you solve a problem like Manila?
Thanks, James, for the opportunity to share again. Ever since I was an architecture student at UST, then master's degree, scholar of the United Nations, State University scholar, and Public Works Transportation and Communication scholar. So I had to work for government for at least 2 years. Fortunately, we had a very good Public Works Secretary, Public Works, Transportation, and Communications. Only one department, Secretary David Kunsunhi. And he assigned me in World Bank funded projects and UNDP funded projects. So I had the opportunity to work, coordinate, and sometimes supervise international experts. So Metro Plan Manila, Metro Manila Transport Land Use Development Planning Project, funded by the World Bank. We were about 90 working full-time, about 20 expats, international experts. And during our conversations that time, one of the things I did was the evolution of town planning, urban planning in the Philippines. The formal planning in the Philippines, urban planning, came from the Spaniards.
What year was that?
1521, so it will be 500 years.
This is the city of Manila?
City of Manila is 1571.
Okay.
So, and they planned Manila and all the other Spanish colonies in similar manner. Town plaza with the church and the municipio. And if it was nice, at least you have a town plaza. Every Sunday, regardless of income class, they come together. The downside of it is intramuros, inside the walls, for the ilustrados and the principalia, the rich, powerful, and collected. Extramuros, outside the walls, were the peasants, the Indios, and the sanglais.
This is not an official term, right? Intra and extramuros?
No, I studied Latin. Intra.
I've heard of the intra. We all know intramuros, but extramuros.
It's extramuros.
Okay.
It was in my term paper in Harvard, graduate school design. And all Spanish colonies, including South America, Latin America, they followed that town planning principle, town plaza, and intramuros, extramuros. But in the Latin cities, they brought down their walls already. In our country, 1905, Daniel Burnham was hired by the American government to plan Manila in 1905 and Baguio in 1909. And before that, he replanned Washington, D.C., Cleveland, and San Francisco. In 1909, same year as Baguio, Chicago. And the basic principles of Daniel Burnham plan was city beautiful and city efficient. While Americans were here, we were following the principles of good urban planning of Daniel Burnham. After we became a republic, we dropped the more democratic, inclusive spaces, brought back the intramuros and extramuros. The planning for Metro Manila was the best metro plan, I'm told by foreigners, in 1976. Metro Plan Manila, we address traffic, transportation, housing, land use, flooding, disaster preparedness.
I know it's too late to do anything about this now, but would Manila have been the ideal spot for you to have picked the city to be built on, our capital? Are we too narrow? Is there anything wrong fundamentally with the landscape?
Yeah. We did not continuously improve and redevelop because the evolution of cities, they started as port-oriented, waterfront, ports, then railway cities. Agricultural aids, it's port-driven. Then industrial aids, railway-driven. Then modern aids, freeway-driven. This century will be airport-driven cities, aerotropolis.
So what can we learn from these countries and best practices? What are some of the things that we can apply?
Yeah. Walkability, walking is #1 mode of transportation. Then bicycle, then mass transit. Automobile is the last. Even in Germany, they don't allow cars. They make the best cars in the world in the middle of the city during peak hours. And even in 1976, we already proposed in congested roads and streets, there's a congestion charging. You pay to enter. So unnecessary trips, you just postpone it. So what we're doing now at Palafox, we have 1,000 recommendations now to apply lessons learned. We have a vision plan for the Philippines for the next 100 years.
You have 1,000 recommendations to the government?
Yes, and private sector as well.
Okay.
And some
For a
of them,
100-year plan,
Yeah.
21-21.
Yeah, if you compare our cities to the human body, the major traffic generators like the central business districts, the large shopping malls, these are the hearts of the city, and the large educational institutions, the hearts of the city. The arteries are the roads and the waterways, and the parks and open spaces are the lungs of the city. So I think our cities need a heart transplant, heart bypass, and a lung transfer because people have sold the lungs of the cities already. To simplify it, and it's until the 70s, we were a model for urban planning to the rest of the world.
Can you expound a little bit more on that 100-year, 1,000-point plan?
Yeah, every time there's a fire, only one culprit, faulty electrical wiring, and nobody's investigating why. Then I've been saying, 2004, the Japanese study for earthquake 7.2, 50,000 people will die, 35,000 from the earthquake, and 20,000 from the fire. 2% of tall buildings will collapse. The 30% of the low-rise, medium-rise buildings will collapse. And all infrastructure in buildings with corruption, they will all collapse. I noticed that in Tacloban after Yolanda. And since the study was in 2004, that's 13 years ago, with population base of year 2000. And government should have already certified buildings that are vulnerable to collapse, to warn them, and do the retrofitting. If Paul Francis never came here, the canopy of Quirino Grandstand would have collapsed. So they had to fix it before the Pope arrived, and 7 bridges were collapsed, including Guadalupe Bridge. So every time I pass by Guadalupe Bridge, I speed faster, drive faster.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Okay, if you were going to apply just one solution, the most immediate solution to Metro Manila, what would it be?
Yeah, what I would do is have, and we did it for San Juan, smart urban planning for San Juan, 3 levels of access. The first level, the sidewalk street level, then elevated interconnected walkways, so that even if it's flooded, you can still go to school, go to work. And the third level, monorail, interconnecting buildings to connect with LRT Aurora in Quezon City and MRT EDSA. So you minimize use of cars. And every 800 meters across Pasig River, San Juan River, and Marikina River, bridges for pedestrians and bicycles. And the whole length of EDSA, elevated walkway and elevated bicycle lanes.
Throughout the entire stretch?
Entire stretch. I've been to 2,000 cities to study and observe them in 74 countries. The progressive, more successful ones, they only have 5 formula of success. Visionary leadership, strong political will, appreciation of good urban planning, appreciation of application, good design like architecture, engineering, and good governance. And their leaders are not intellectually challenged, and they're not integrity challenged.